Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review, and today we have another 1/32 scale kit from Trumpeter, so we know it's going to be a nice kit on it. And what we have today is the US Air Force A-7D Corsair II right here. Now, a couple weeks ago we did the naval variant of this, the A-7E, and if I recall correctly that was a very nice kit. We'll take a look. I don't think there's going to be much of a difference to this one, but we will have to see. So give me 1 second to get the camera turned around and everything set up, and we will start going through this beautiful kit right here. Alright, so now that I got the box set up, we can start going through the box art and everything. So starting off, this is kit number. I'm looking for a kit number. I do not see one yet. Kit number 02245 right here. And again, we have a length of 439.5 millimeters, a wingspan of 369.7 millimeters, more than 680 parts. We have metal landing gear. We have a photo etch ejection seat parts for that, and we also have film parts for the instrument panel, and a total of 22 sprues in this kit. With the top box art, we have some nice box art right here. We have an OV-10 in the background flying around, doing some close air support or some FAC, forward observation duties as well. And then it looks like we just got done bombing something back here in the background. So we go off to the side, we have two different schemes. We have the 354th Tactical Fighter Wing Karat Tajlandia of 1972, and then we have the 355th Tactical Fighter Wing of 1973. Then we flip it over to the other side, and we have a nice little history about the A-7D right here, and then we also have some nice pictures of the built model and all the ordnance that is going to be coming in this kit. So we're going to have a lot of sprues of ordnance coming up. Alright, so I'm going to get the box set up and we're going to start taking a look here in 1 second. Alright, so real quick, a history about this kit. So in 2005, this kit was released as a new tool. That was the A-7E, which we did the inbox review for a couple weeks ago. If you're interested in it, I'll put the card in for that right here. And then this one was released in 2006. So pretty much in rapid succession, these two kits came out. And there's been no additions to it or anything since then. So 2006, it's what, 19 years old. So we'll see how it's holding up its age real quick. So starting off with the instructions, we have the standard Trumpeter format with the landscape booklet with the legend on the bottom corner. Then we open it up, we have our sprue callouts right in here. Looks like we have a photo etch fret with a few parts in here. Not just the seat belts, but a couple other parts in there. And then we have a film for our instrument panel, and then our decal sheets right here. Also looks like we have rubber tires again as well. Alright, so starting off with the kit, starting with our ejection seat, getting all of that done, and then getting our cockpit tub assembled with a couple of pieces in there, and then we're adding in some more detail pieces right in there, and then our instrument panel going together. It looks like it's going to be a three-piece instrument panel where you have the back plate, the film, and then maybe a clear part for your instrument dial right there. After that's done, we're working on our left and right main gear cabin assemblies, and then also our electronics bays as well. And then after that, we are working on our nose landing gear bay, which is going on to our intake as well. After that is all done, we are getting all the pieces that we just assembled, getting those into our fuselage halves, and getting everything in. We also have our exhaust can back here as well. And then on the other side, we are adding in our gun, and then some more cockpit details, and also our landing gear and electronics bay as well. So after all of that is done, we are getting our fuselage halves sandwiched together with our rudder, and then we also have a piece to go in on the very back right here. Then we're adding in a couple lumps and bumps, a tail hook, and then a bottom pan for our belly right here. And then we're all adding in a couple of AOA probes, some boarding ladder or boarding steps right here, side pylon, and then the nose rim right here for our intake. Then moving forward, we have a top for our gun mount right here, and then a sensor going on, and then we have our instrument combing going on there. And then we start work on our wings with the upper half and then the two lower halves right there, along with our flaps going in there as well. Then after that, we have a bunch of pylons to add on and our slats as well. Then we're adding in our wing, our center wing, to the fuselage right there. And then after that, we are working on our main landing gear carriage right here, seeing how that goes all together on that, and then our nose landing gear as well. It has a couple pieces taped off for some reason. Let's peel this off and see what's underneath of here. So those were, I guess, wrong part numbers, and they just taped over it with some whiteout tape. That saves a lot of money versus reprinting a whole new instruction booklet, right? Alright, so after that, we are adding in our nose landing gear and also our main landing gear. So that is nice that we will be able to attach it at the very end of the build. We don't have to attach it during assembly right there. After that, we have our speed brake. We have the option of having it in the open or closed position. And then we're also adding in our nose landing gear doors right there. Then we have a few other parts to go on. Right here we have a couple photo etch pieces to go on, and then our landing gear doors. And then we are working on our outer wings right here. So getting those all on, and then we have some photo etch for the inside of our canopy with our rear view mirrors on that. So that's going to help with the detail and painting that up. And then some more work on our outer wings right there. And then we're adding in the canopy, our boarding ladder, and then the door for our electronics bay. And then on both sides we also have a ram air generator right there, or turbine generator. And then we are attaching our wings in the folded position right here. If you wish, you have a few little detail parts to add into that. And then you also have the option to have the wings out. So with this being an Air Force version, I'm going to be doing this one with the wings extended. The naval variant I'll do with the wings folded. Alright, then moving along, we are adding in all of our ordnance, getting all of our ordnance assembled. We have a lot of ordnance to go on this bomb truck right here. As you can see, we have AGM-12s, 45s, AIM-9s, AGM-65s, Mark 82s, both the Slick and the Snake Eyes, and then we have the Mark 117 bombs as well. After that, we have our loadout call out right here. So if you follow this, you should have a pretty accurate loadout on this kit. So, but otherwise, check your references just to double check. Alright, then up next we have our color callouts with our decal placements. Again, very nice paint schemes on these. I do like the Southeast Asia camo scheme on here, so that does look very nice on that. Then on the reverse side we have just our color and decal placements for all of the ordnance on here. Again, nice color schemes and everything. I'm just not sure on what loadout I'm going to do for this guy. Not sure if I'm going to load it up with Mark 82s or Mark 117s, or if I might kind of mix it up with a JBU-8 or something like that in here. Pretty sure they didn't have Mavericks back during the 70s when they were doing this for these paint schemes, but we'll have to do some verification and check. Alright, so moving on to our first decal sheet, we have our ordnance decal right here. Again, nice decals all through. Now these placards, I mean, they're just scribbled lines. They don't look like actual words on here. So that's one downside. These right here, they do actually have words. So if you look at your magnifier, you can see the words. And then for the bomb, for the Mark 82 decals, again, they are legible as well. But for these, for the multiple ejector racks, they are not legible on that. Alright, and then moving on to our main decals. Main decals do look very nice. Let me get you zoomed in here. The color of the stars and bars, they do look just a tad off, in my opinion. They look just a tad off with the color. But other than that, all the other decals do look very nice. Carrier film is about average for this. They're cut pretty close to the actual lettering, so you shouldn't have much of an issue. The nose steps are all spelled correctly. I don't see any walkway decals on here, so you don't have to worry about that. If you know the A6 Intruder, Trumpeter spelled walkway, Kalkway, Kalkway. So just keep an eye out on that when you're building the kit. Alright, so starting off with our fuselages. Again, very nice panel line and rivet detail. We do have a little bit of a scuffing right here because this one is not in a plastic bag. It's just sitting on top of the box, right up against the outer shell of the box. So we do have a little bit of scuffing, but the panel line detail on here does actually look very nice for being 19 years old. So again, just moving right along on here, really does look very nice. We flip it over to the other side, not much detail. We do have a little bit of detail by the exhaust area, but we also do have some ejector pin marks in there as well. So definitely going to need to clean those up. And then some dirt or something, or it's just a brown, don't know what it is, but something brown on like a dust or something on the kit as well. But I'm not seeing like the detail going around the bend all maintains uniformity, so you don't have anything going soft going around the bends on both upper and lower sections. And then we do the other side, it's going to be the same deal with the detail on here. Looks absolutely amazing. Again, we have that like a stain or something on here. I can't tell what that is, but just definitely going to need to give this a good wash before we build this kit. So again, nice detail on that. And then we have this sprue right here with our flaps and ailerons right here. Not much detail on those pieces. We flip it over to the other side. This is our speed brake. We do have a couple ejector pin marks on that. And then for, I can't tell what gear bay this is for, maybe our nose gear. A little bit of detail on that, a little bit of rivet detail on it. It looks pretty good. But we'll have to see if I can. And we do have a little bit of flash on here as well. So that's a large flash tag right there. Okay, up next we have our photo etch fret, and photo etch detail does look rather nice. We have our ejection tool handle. We have the blade for our ram air turbine right here, and then also maybe our rudder pedals right there. Our seat belts, they look okay. And then we have our framing for our canopy right here, and I'm not sure what this piece is for. I think this might be for our ejection seat. I'm not 100% sure, but that's where that is. And then on the reverse side we have our film right here, if I can, for our instrument panel right here. Up next we have our tires. Again, rubber tires. Detail on the tread is okay. Nothing much to brag about, but again, the tread on here is okay. Alright, up next we have our canopy, our front windscreen right here. The way that they packed this was, it was inside of the main canopy like this. So we have scratches on this right on the front of it, and then a little bit of flash on the side, but not too bad, and we'll just have to take care of that, these two connection nubs right here. And then for the main canopy, we have a giant seam line going down the middle right here, and also a lot of scratches on the canopy right here that I'm hoping. Alright, so now that I take my finger over it, they're not as bad, but definitely going to take some work to get those buffed out, along with the center seam line right here. Alright, so up next we have a clear sprue. This is with our dashboard, and one thing that I just don't get about this is they have a clear dashboard right here, right? But where the instrument dials are, where there would be clear parts, where there would be glass, is hollow. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't know why you'd have that all clear, and then the parts that would be clear in the first place, there's no clear, it's hollow. So still going to take a little, you can still get it done with some liquid UV resin, but it would be a lot nicer if that was molded into the kit and just mask that off and then painted it up. Then we have our clear parts for our seeker heads, and then a couple other clear parts as well. Alright, up next we have our first ordnance sprue, and this is just the typical Trumpeter ordnance. Right here you got your Mark 82s, you got your extended fuses right here, and then your Snake Eye Mark 82s and your Mavericks right here as well. So decent detail on them for out of the box. Alright, so before I start off with this next sprue, the previous sprue that we did, there were a total of 6 of those. Alright, so moving on to our next one, we have our landing gear doors and our refueling probe and a few other small detail parts right here. For the exterior detail, it all does look very nice. We do have a little bit of flash around the refueling probe right there, and then everything else on here does look very nice. And we flip it over to the other side for the inside of our landing gear doors, and those also are ejector pin free. No issues on any of these landing gear doors. We do have a couple ejector pin marks. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be here or not, but they are very small. So if these two are the only ones that have ejector pin marks while everything else is free and clear, I'm assuming that these are actually supposed to be there. But everything else on here does look rather nice. We do have a little bit of a mold seam going down the middle of this landing gear strut right here, but that's going to be an easy cleanup on that. And then we have some exterior detail with our pylons. Again, pylon detail on here with the panel lines look very nice. And then on our horizontal stabilizers, those also have some nice panel line detail on there as well. So no rivet detail on those. Then we have some very small wiring or something like that right there. Alright, up next we have another ordnance sprue, typical Trumpeter ordnance. No real issues with this. Some fairly decent detail going around with the panel lines and rivets on here. So shouldn't be too bad on that. Alright, and then we have another ordnance sprue with our GBU 8 right here, and then a bullpup right here, and then a Shrike, and then another missile right here, or air-to-ground missile right here. The detail on it is fairly nice. No real issues with any of them. They don't seem like they're too blocked off. Now maybe this fin right here is a little bit blocked off, like squared off, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. They are fairly nice now. Okay, so these fins are squared off right here. So you're definitely going to need to to sand those down to get the correct knife edge or leading edge to those as well. Alright, so up next we have another double sprue. This is our multiple ejector racks and our triple ejector racks right through here, and they look okay. Your sway braces again look okay as well. Some nice wiring detail right on these, but yeah, you get 2 of these sprues, and yeah, we'll have to see how everything goes together. Again, they look okay for out of the box. Edward does have some that are very, very nice and nicely detailed as well. Alright, so up next we have a targeting pod right here. Again, nice detail on that. Our ejection seat looks okay for the outer detail of it. You're not going to really see much of down here, but up here there's really not much detail to it. And then on our cockpit tub, again, not much detail to it, but you do have these panels that are going to fit in here that are going to help liven that up. I'm hoping that we see those here in a second. And then we have our canopy frame. We do have some mold release stuck on there, but it also has some nice rivet detail on that. Maybe if I can get you in the camera so you can see it. But everything else on here does look fairly nice. Our guns, getting those gun barrels lined up is always a blast. So getting those all lined up. Our Gatling face right there, all the barrels are drilled out, so that's a nice touch. And then we flip it over to the other side. I'm pretty sure that on all of this you're not going to be able to see any of it. For our canopy frame, there's no ejector pin marks on that. Then we also get this nice piece of foam that was stuck in there to help protect that from getting bent and broken as well. Alright, up next we have what looks to be our landing gear bays and also our electronics bays right here. The detail on those look okay. As you can see, typical for the molding of the time for the early 2000s. So the detail on it is pretty nice, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so should weather up and paint up very nicely. And then for the intakes on the inside, alright, so we do have a lot of ejector pin marks going through here. How much of this you're going to be able to see, I'm not sure. They do have it nice and clean up to a certain point. So I'm assuming that that's about as far back as you can actually see in the kit, because it's the same way on both of them where they go to a certain point and then they have all the ejector pin marks. So I'm hoping that's the case with this, because it is nice and smooth up at the very front end of the intake. But that's where everything else is looking right now. Up next we have our fuel tanks. Not much detail on them, just a couple of ribs that go around here. You should be alright. And then our fins for them, they do have our nice knife edge leading and trailing edges on that, so that is a nice touch. Alright, up next we have our just a landing gear sprue and a couple doors for our electronics bay. As you can see, everything on here does look fairly nice. For your electronic bay doors, nice and detailed on that. You do have some rivet detail in there as well. I'm hoping that will pick up on the camera. And also no ejector pin marks on that. All the ejector pin marks are placed in places that you will not be able to see, except for on this nose landing gear. You do have a couple ejector pin marks right there, but those should be fairly easy to sand down on that. So, and we do not have them on the other side. Alright, so now to our last sprue, and this is our wings and everything, and the detail on these look very nice. As you can see, some nice rivet detail on those panel lines and everything. And then we have our switch panels for our cockpit. Again, those look okay. They're a little bit generic and by today's standard, but I mean, they should paint up and be fairly nice. Now if you want to go extreme detail oriented, you can get either a resin cockpit or the 3D printed decals, which absolutely look amazing when they're all done. So not really worried about any ejector pin marks on the reverse side of this kit or this sprue, because everything here is going to be covered up on the reverse side. So again, nice detail on here, no issues with any of it. Our slats are nice in one piece, so we won't have to worry about gluing those together and taking care of a seam line that goes right down the front edge of that. Alright, so that does it for the Trumpeter 132nd U.S. Air Force A-7D Corsair II. Now the kit is pretty much the same thing as the A-7E, just a few extra additional parts. So the detail on it all looks the same. Detail looks nice. I do know that there were some errors with the nose and the intake of this kit. I do know that Zacto Models had the correction set for it. I don't know if that is still available, but if you can get your hands on one, definitely I would look into getting that. And I'm not sure if ResKit is working on a correction for it as well. But other than that, like the detail, like I said, all looks very nice. There are a few areas with some ejector pin issues, but those shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. And I'm hoping that the ejector pins that are on the inside of the intake, with how far back they are, I'm hoping that that's not an issue either. The ordnance, typical Trumpeter ordnance, and the one thing that kind of irks me about this entire kit is the instrument panel, with it being on a clear piece, and then it just, where the dials are is hollowed out. If you would have just made that one solid clear piece and had those, that would have been absolutely amazing. So that way all you have to do is mask off that and then paint it, and then when you pull off the mask, you actually have that glass face in front of your dial. So that's one thing that kind of bugs me about the kit, but again, it's not a huge deal. It can be easily remedied with some 3D, or not 3D, but some UV resin for that. So that's being nitpicky right there. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about the kit. It's going to go in the collection, and it'll just go. Maybe it'll be built this year, next year, don't know when, but it'll come up on at some time. But that's all for today. I want to thank everybody for watching, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below, especially if you've built this kit before. Let us know of any hiccup areas in the kit, and then also hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future content. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.